Hey guys, so by the end of this video, we are going to have this first stage. So we are going to have the initiate reservation stage, which has this blank reservation process that consists of 3 steps. So let's take a look at what this first stage looks like. So the first step is going to be where we are going to enter the information about the hotel. So we are going to enter the hotel name. We are going to have these 2 fields, which are for selecting a date, the check-in date and the checkout date. Then we are going to select the duration of this reservation. Then we are going to click on continue to move on to the next step. Here we are going to be able to select a room type. We will have 4 types of rooms. I'm going to select the double and we are going to enter a room rate for this room type. So let's click on continue. And this is the last step. Here the user is presented with a summary for the reservation. So here we can see that we have the hotel name, we have the check-in and checkout dates, we have the room type, the room rate, the stay duration, and we have this calculated field, which is the room rate times the stay duration. So if you want to see how we do this, keep on watching. So here we are in App Studio, once again in our application, hotel booking application. And because we don't have a case type yet, Pega will give us this pop-up that tells us to create a case type. So we can create it here, or we can actually create it over here. Here we click on case types, and here we are going to click on add case type. Here, the name for this case type is going to be reservation. Okay, so now here we have our default case type. It has one stage called create, one process called create, and one step called create. So let's rename this. I want this to be called initiate reservation. The process, I'm going to call it plan reservation. And now let's think about the steps that we want for this first stage. So the first thing that I want the user to do is to select a hotel. Next, I want the user to select the rooms. And finally, I'm going to present the user with the initial summary. So in hotel, I want to have the hotel name, the check-in date, checkout date. In select rooms, I want the user to select from a list of rooms. And in initial summary, I'm going to present the previous information to the user. So to get started working on each step to present information to the user, we can click on the step, and then we are going to go over here to the right, and we are going to click on configure view. So here we are going to configure the view for this first step. So by default, it will have 2 fields already, the label and the description. I don't want these 2 fields, so I'm going to remove them. And I'm going to add my own fields. So the first field is going to be the hotel name. The type we can select from a variety of different types of data that we can use to represent information to the user. So here we have text for single line or paragraph. We have booleans, we have currency, we have date, we have decimal, and we have many types of information that we can present to user. So for the hotel name, is text single is okay. I'm going to click on submit and add another one. So we can see that this was added to the view. Now I'm going to also add the check-in date and the checkout date. For this, I'm going to select date. So we have 2, date and time, and date only. So because I only care about the date and not the time, I'm going to select date only. I'm going to add also checkout date. It's going to be date as well. And I wanted to calculate the duration between these two dates. So for now, I'm just going to we're going to work on that calculation later. But for now, I just want the field for that calculation. So it's going to be called stay duration, and the type is going to be an integer. So now I'm going to click on submit. And now we have these fields for this first step. But remember that we have to always click on save, because if we don't, it will not be saved, and all the changes that we have done will not be saved. So to preview what we have here, we can click on save and run, and this will run the case type. So let's see how it looks. So here is our case type. Here we can add information. For example, I'm going to add a random hotel. I'm going to select a check-in date and a checkout date. So the duration between these two dates is 2 days. And when we click continue, see that we are in the next step, but because we don't have any information in that view, Pega is not presenting anything to us. If we click on advance, we are going to go to the next step, and once again, we don't have any information to present to the user. And we are going to click advance this case, and that's pretty much the end of this case because we only have one stage. So this is the end of our case. Here we can see all the information that we enter. And something that I didn't mention is that when we click on save and run, Pega automatically opened the user portal. So to exit out of this user portal and return to where we were editing, we are going to click on exit preview. So here we are back in the case type. So I'm going to add also some information to the next two steps. So I'm going to select this step and I'm going to go to configure view. And now we can add some fields to this view. So in this view, I want to add the room. So I'm going to create a new field and I'm going to call it room type. And the type for this field is going to be, I'm going to choose a pick list. So here we have these options. So this pick list will be displayed as a drop-down. So a drop-down is something like this. So I'm going to leave it as a drop-down. Now we can select two sources for this drop-down. So we can make it local, which means that we are going to add it here, or we can use a data page. So for now, if you don't know what a data page is, don't worry, we will talk about that in another video. But for now, we are going to select local, and we are going to add some choices for this drop-down list. So I'm going to add, for now, 4 options. So the first one is going to be single, the second one is going to be double, the third one is going to be king, and the last one is going to be suite. So this will be our 4 room types that we will have. I'm going to click on submit and add another one. So another field. And this one is going to be called room rate, which is how much the price for each night that the guest is going to stay at the hotel. So for this one, the type is going to be currency because we are talking about money. And I'm going to click on submit. Again, I'm going to click on submit. So let's take a look at how the case is now. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to click on save and run. So once again, I'm going to add a random name for hotel. I'm going to select a check-in date and a checkout date. The stay duration is going to be 1 day. And now in this view, we have this drop-down for the room type. So here we can see that we have single, double, king, suite. So we can select a single and we can add a room rate for this type of room. So I'm going to say 100. And if we click continue, we still don't have anything in this view. So I'm going to exit out of this preview and I'm going to edit this view. So in this view is called initial summary. So I want to present all the information that the user has given so far. So instead of clicking on add field, because this will create a field, we already have some fields created in the previous steps. So I can expand this section of fields and I'm going to, we can see that we have some information already here. So the first thing that I want to present is the hotel name. Then I want to present the check-in date and the checkout date. I also want to display the room type and the room rate. And I believe that's everything. And the stay duration also. So something that I will change here is in options, we have different options for presenting this data. So because we already entered information in a previous step, this information is going to be consistent. So that means that whatever hotel we wrote in this field in the first step, it's going to be here again. So what I want to do is to change in options to it being read only. So I'm going to do this for all of these options. And let's click on submit. And let's click on save and run. So let's add some information here. So now we can see that in this initial summary, we can see all the information that we entered previously. So something that I might want to do here is to also have a total. So I want to know how much the user will be charged, which will be the duration of their stay times the room rate. So in this case, the total will be 100, right? If this was 2 days, it will be 200. So let's add that field. So I'm going to exit out of this portal. In this initial summary, I'm going to configure the view, and I'm going to add a new field, which will be called total. And it's going to be, because we're talking about money, it's going to be currency. I'm going to click submit. Something that now we can do in options is also to have this field as a calculated value. So by default, all the calculated values will be read only. So let's see what options this gives us. So when we click on calculated read only, we will get this gear button. So let's click on it to configure the calculation. So we have these options to take the sum of something, the average, the minimum, or the maximum. So what do we want this value to be equal to? So we want this value to be equal to the room rate times the stay duration. So we don't have an option for that here, so we are going to click on custom, and here we can create an expression. So the expression that we want to select the room rate and multiply it by the stay duration. So how do we access the information that is in this field? For this, we are going to use a dot. Actually, it says we can read it right here. Use dot for field prompts to enter a simple calculation such as amount times quantity. So here we are going to enter a dot, and here we are going to see some options, right? We have all of these options to select from. So what do we want? We want the room rate, and we want to multiply it by the stay duration. So let's click on submit. Once again, submit. And let's click on save and run. And now we can see that we have all of this information, and we have this calculated field, which is this times this. So that's actually pretty nice. What I would like to work on in the next video is to actually have this room rate also be dependent on the room type. So if the user selects single, the room rate will be 100, double will be 200, and so on. Also here, another thing that we can calculate is the stay duration. So this will be the difference between these 2 days. So between the 19th and the 22nd, it's going to be 3 days. So this is also going to be calculated automatically. So that's it for this first video. It's very basic. I hope you stay for the next video where we are going to be working with some expressions for calculating these values.